in the appointment, I was just like nodding along. I was like, okay, makes sense. And then my mom and I got in the car and we were driving home, and I just like started crying and like just like cried the whole way home, like thinking I can't drive. Like I wanted to drive, I have my temps, I can't even use those. Like I was just like thinking about all the things that I couldn't do, and like and what it would mean and what my friends would think, and what would this mean for the rest of my life. And my mom just said, well, we'll take this one step at a time and we'll just go from here.
Well, when she had her first big seizure a little over a year ago, we had no idea what caused it. So when she was finally diagnosed with some form of epilepsy, it helped to clarify things a little bit. At least we knew sort of, and we've found out more and more what the problem is or what the problem isn't, so that we can help to avoid future problems.
I think when Mary was diagnosed with epilepsy, it was shocking and confusing, in the sense that like it just felt like it came out of nowhere. Also confusing because I'd never really encountered epilepsy before, other than people that had like had it in the past, but even then didn't really know anything about it. So scary in that sense too, of like not knowing what this meant or what it looked like, and just I think sad. I was stressed out a lot. I thought about her all the time. Wanted her to move with me and always stay with me because I didn't know what her life would look like.
It was scary at first because I didn't know exactly what it meant. I had never encountered it before. And so it was kind of me researching and learning how I could help in any way possible whenever we were together.
Is this happening to me? Like, one of my friends' brothers has seizures, and I thought it would be like, like I never really thought of him as a whole person anymore. And when I got diagnosed with the epilepsy, I was just like, what does that make me, you know? So it was rough.
I viewed it as matter of fact, and it's something we have to deal with. And anything like that, I tend to just get clinical with. So my response was, ultimately, I guess feel sorry for him, but it doesn't need to change anything. That's kind of my feeling.
First shock. Why? There was no signs. There's no history in our family, and there were no signs. We couldn't figure out, why. I was sad for him.
It was a really slow diagnosis. So, and it was a lot of different things. Like, they thought it was my heart. They didn't know. They thought it was my brain. It was just kind of all scary. I was just scared. I didn't cry during any of it except for when they had to shave my head, because I had really long hair, and I went in with braids and I came out without any hair. So it was just that was probably the scariest part.
I felt sorry for her. It was my granddaughter. She was very young. She almost drowned because of it. There's certain activities that you can't do, you should not do by yourself.
Really, my initial total response is, I love him and I will be there no matter what, and nothing will change that.
I was just irritated more than anything. I'm hooked up to CAT scans, and I'm getting those EEG things with strobing lights that make you feel even worse. You're getting heart monitors hooked up to you. You're just getting, IVs and lines everywhere, and it's just annoying. I'm just more annoyed by it. And I think because of the fact that the accident that I had was not my fault, I did a lot of blaming of the man who did hit me. And it was all his fault. So I went through a phase when I was a teenager of he's ruined my life. Everything sucks. But as I've aged, it is my life. And I'm the only one that can make the most of it or the least of it. So I just refuse to accept a lot of it and tell myself I can do whatever I want to do.
With my mother, I didn't actually know until I was maybe 10, and I was with her, and it was kind of just a casual conversation. We were talking, and I was like, wait, you have epilepsy? Like, I didn't know that. But with my sister, it didn't really change anything except for concerts and things like that. We just go on with our day.
I was really relieved because it took so long for us to get there, to get to that point of a diagnosis. I was happy that they found something that was wrong with her, even though it took her like a year to find the right medicine.
I didn't really know what was like going on. I didn't like have a real idea of like what was happening.
Confused, wondering, this could not be me. How could this be me?
I don't really remember when I was 8, but I do remember being very confused because as an 8-year-old, you don't really know what that means, what a seizure means. But I do remember being in that hospital room, and I remember looking at my mom, and she seemed very, like, scared. Like, she didn't know what the future meant, like, what it was going to hold, if there was any, like, other complications. But I remember when I was diagnosed as an epileptic, I was just very sad. Because they had told me, oh, it'll go away after puberty. You'll grow out of it. And then they diagnosed me as an epileptic, and I have to live with it, which means I have to take medicine all the time. And I was sad, but then, you know, like, there's nothing I can do to change it. That's who I am.
I was very young, so all of this was very confusing for me. So it was kind of just like, oh, cool, fun.
I was actually relieved. I was happy that she found what she needed to keep it under control, and that we finally had answers, because we knew that she was having the trouble with her mouth, but we didn't think anything of it. And as soon as this happened, I was just scared that it was going to happen again. But after so many years of her being completely fine and living her life, yeah, I'm relieved.
Tears. We cried a lot, and you know, then you kind of think back as a parent, what could I have done to prevent this? And really, there's nothing that we could have done. I think my reaction was a little different than my husband's reaction. My husband is an engineer, so he's very analytical on how he handles things, and I wanted to be mad and angry, and we both expressed how we felt, and I just said, let me be angry for a little bit, and then I can start to rationalize this. And so he very much from the very beginning was like, this is now part of our story, and this is what God is telling us to do at this point. And so now I think I told you I'm starting to see God's fingerprints in this whole process. And you know, like, my husband was supposed to be in Costa Rica when we went through this whole thing, and thankfully his boss went in his place, and every time he's had a big episode, he's always been at home, and we've been close by to get there. And to have Akron Children's really in our backyard has been a blessing for us, and being able to handle everything that way has been, I mean, it's just been easier than it could have been. So yeah.
I mean, after he had the seizure, obviously, I knew something was wrong, but I was very surprised that 3 years post-injury, he suddenly developed seizures. So in that sense, I was surprised. After we realized it was seizures, I guess it was just a matter of figuring out, hoping we could find a medication that would control it, that wouldn't give him side effects that caused him problems. And the fact that we knew why he had it, and that it wasn't going to make his condition worse, was comforting to know, to understand what was going on.
I was diagnosed around January of 2018.
I would have been 16 at the time.
The day after my 12th birthday.
62.
At 18, when they did the CAT scans after I had my first grand mal seizure, and they found they knew I had a head trauma from the accident. They just didn't know the extent of the damage that was done until it started showing up when I was 18.
I was 17.
In 3rd grade. I want to say near the end of 2016.
2015.
7 or 8.
11 years old.
I'm not positive, but I think it was around when I was like a baby or 2.
He was 19.
Photosensitive epilepsy.
Epilepsy.
I'm not sure what it is. Not at this point. It's like been so many different things because they've gone down. I'm not positive.
Really haven't been diagnosed with anything. They've run tests. I've only had 2. I'm on medication to supposedly keep me from having seizures. And up to this point, they didn't put me on medication after the first one, but they did after the second one. And I haven't had an episode since.
I don't know, honestly, what my official diagnosis is. I've never asked. They just say onset of seizures.
Occipital neuralgia.
Epilepsy. Okay, so I have absence seizures and I also have juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, so JME.
I have benign Rolandic seizure disorder.
I never really was given a type of seizure, but it was uncontrolled muscle movements. So I'm not really sure. I've never been categorized.
My epilepsy is idiopathic. There is no cause to it. They have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was sleep apnea.
What it was I was born with a malformation in my brain, so like something wasn't right, but it didn't come. It didn't start causing a problem until I like hit puberty and got older and stuff, and then it started causing the seizures.
They have not found any cause for that.
Brain injury.
I previously had like 3 concussions in the span of a few months, and it was just injuries basically.
There was no cause. The only cause I think they found was that I was dehydrated at the time of them happening, so dehydration.
We honestly don't know my cause. We really don't. Like, the doctors are still trying to figure out. Because I didn't have any traumatic brain injuries, I didn't have anything. It just kind of came out of nowhere. So they still have no idea what's causing it.
The cause of my seizures is, my mom always puts it in a weird way of like, my brain doesn't work. So my nerves just kind of, when I'm thinking a lot or when I'm stressed, they like overwork themselves and then I have a seizure.
I think it was the lesion, so either irregular brain development or an injury as a child, which I don't really remember hitting my head hard enough to get a brain lesion, so I didn't grow well.
1.
I have one child that also has it, where mine was a traumatic brain injury. Hers are caused by severe anemia.
My mother has epilepsy.
I'm pretty sure my grandma used to, and that's all that I know of.
A lot. The big ones, I've had like 6. But silent seizures and myoclonic seizures, I have no idea how many I've had of those.
A total of 3.
Oh gosh. I honestly, we lost count. Probably at least over 40. I was having around, other than my full, like my body seizures, I would have like 200 seizures a day, just like in my brain. I didn't know about until they actually did tests. They found out I was having all these seizures throughout the day because I was unaware of them.
2.
I couldn't even begin to count them. I've only had 2 major seizures that hospitalized me. One was when I was 18, and the other one was just a couple weeks ago. which scared the bejesus out of my husband. But because he had never seen anything except the absent seizures. So most of my life has always been the absent seizures. So I can't even count how many of those. Sometimes I have multiple in a day. So it depends on the day and what's happening.
When the first 3 months of them, I'd have like 5 to 10 a day. And then after that, I started getting injections in my neck to calm my nerves, and then they stopped happening. So.
A lot. I want to say at least 2, maybe 3.
Oh, geez. I think I've had 3 full epileptic seizures, and then I can't even tell you how many absent seizures I've had in my life. Oh boy, lots. Like countless. Every day.
I want to say around 10. So a really low amount, but...
A lot. Thousands.
My epilepsy is idiopathic. There is no cause to it. They have no idea.
Pretty sure it was sleep apnea.
What it was I was born with a malformation in my brain, so like something wasn't right, but it didn't come. It didn't start causing a problem until I like hit puberty and got older and stuff, and then it started causing the seizures.
They have not found any cause for that.
Brain injury?
Previously I had like 3 concussions in the span of a few months, and it was just injuries basically.
There was no cause. The only cause I think they found was that I was dehydrated at the time of them happening, so dehydration.
We honestly don't know my cause. We really don't. Like, the doctors are still trying to figure out. Because I didn't have any traumatic brain injuries, I didn't have anything, it just kind of came out of nowhere. So they still have no idea what's causing it.
The cause of my seizures is... My mom always puts it in a weird way of like, my brain doesn't work. So my nerves just kind of, when I'm thinking a lot or when I'm stressed, they like overwork themselves and then I have a seizure.
I think it was the lesion, so either irregular brain development or an injury as a child, which I don't really remember hitting my head hard enough to get a brain lesion, so I didn't grow well.
Grand mal seizures, I am convulsing, my eyes roll back, my head usually turns one direction, and usually convulsing for about 2 minutes, and then I don't respond to anything for about 15 minutes, and then I'm completely unaware of my surroundings for about 25 minutes, and then absence seizures, I don't know what's going on, so basically it looks like I'm zoning out. People will like say something to me and I won't respond at all, but like I'm just unaware, and then I'll like realize what's going on and realize that I missed something. And then myoclonic seizures, a lot of people miss and mistake as twitching. For me, it's like my neck will jerk and will twitch. I usually get a migraine with that, and I can feel it coming on.
My seizures start out of me trying to, swallow my tongue, and then my body freaks out and starts spazzing out. I'm not sure about the scientific aspect of it yet. My eyes roll to the back of my head, and my limbs stretch out and like flex and all that sort of stuff, and my body just goes into complete and utter like muscle spasm.
Well, like I said, my first seizure, I was playing tag and I just fell and started like convulsing everywhere, and that's that kind. And then the one after my first 2 surgeries, just my arm was moving. So like what had happened was I was putting my earring in and it started, and so I walked down the stairs and I was like, hey mom. So like that one's just my right arm. The one where I was in the car, like I'm just like slightly moving. So like none of them, only the first like maybe 10 were like full body ones.
Just your body just spasms uncontrollably until the seizure is over. And that's pretty much. Now the last one, I really bit my tongue really, really bad. And it took quite a while for it to heal up.
The bad seizures are a lot of, I fall out. I feel like I'm going to pass out. And then I just don't remember anything until I start coming to. I'm usually very confused after I come to. I don't make a lot of sense. Words won't form. I don't have the ability to get it to come out. A lot of times when I'm going into my seizures, I don't have the ability to say what I want to say. I will be actually trying to yell for somebody to tell them, and the words won't come out.
My whole body tenses up and I start shaking. So.
I blank out and just like freeze and pause.
Well, my tonic-clonic ones, I go unconscious, so I have absolutely no idea what they look like. All I know is from what people have told me, you're kind of just jerking all over the place. My absent seizures, they probably last about like 5 seconds, and they kind of just look like you kind of just blank out. You have no idea. You lose all consciousness without losing consciousness, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Kind of just me twitching a lot like this, and I usually like can wake myself up, so.
I usually, like if I'm sitting here to have a seizure, I would lock up my arms and rock forward. It would last about 15 seconds, and I would end with like a big "Arr!" And I can continue on what I was doing before that. Like I'm not like loss of conscious or anything like that.
I think usually my eyes would just like kind of move in a circle, and I would just kind of like zone out for a couple of minutes.
My triggers are specifically lights, so like strobe lights, flashing through car windows. Like if we're passing by trees, the lights coming through the trees will trigger a seizure, and that's why I had both of my grand mal seizures, was lights coming through the trees while on a road. My triggers are exhaustion, stress, and just things like that. Fatigue.
I would say the triggers I watch for are if we're driving and there's a lot of flashing lights, like an ambulance going by, or other lights like that. Or maybe if I'm posting something on Instagram that has a lot of flashing lights, like if I went to see Christmas lights, I posted some of the lights that I saw, but I put a little warning before the video started, just saying that, you know, the video that comes after this is a little bit flashy. And so mainly the flashing lights with movies and videos and being in the car and things.
Flashing lights are the biggest thing that I watch for. Anything that can like take her breath away, like roller coasters or anxiety. I always make sure to like remind her to breathe when she's stressed out. Those are the biggest ones I watch for.
Triggers, definitely the lights, and a lot of screen time. So like if she's working on a project for an extended period of time, I'll just remind her, hey, just take a break for a second and don't stress yourself out. Get a lot of sleep, eat a decent amount, just.
There are no triggers.
Honestly, they never said anything about triggers. I think it honestly just happens every once in a while. They said when I was on those weekly, like the monitoring tests, my finger taps, but there was no like actual trigger.
Have no idea.
I watch him all the time. this because I don't know what the trigger is. So because I don't know what the trigger is, I am looking at him and checking on him all the time, even when he doesn't know it. I'll just come down and, because he could have a seizure while I'm upstairs and he's downstairs. So I'll come down, check on him, just make sure he's okay, turn around and walk back upstairs. Because I don't know what the triggers are.
Flashing lights, stress, lack of sleep, mostly. If I have a really bad restless night, or multiple nights in a row, then that will trigger me. I don't drive at night anymore. My doctor has not taken my license yet because I still have symptoms leading up to my seizure that tells me to stay put. But he does limit my ability to drive. I'm only allowed to drive around town. I drive, within a 5-mile radius of my home and stay within that time frame. But that's about it.
Blank staring, not processing, or with my sister if River's acting weird.
It's very similar to epilepsy. It's loud noises, strobe lights, and that sort of thing. I make sure she's with it because when she's not, if she starts staring, then I'll realize she's probably about to have a seizure.
Strobe lights trigger them.
I am not quite sure what my triggers are because they just happened and I had no preparation for them. They would just happen and I wouldn't know what was going on.
Stress. Stress is my main trigger, that's for sure. A lot of emotional stress where I feel out of control, overwhelmed, lack of sleep. I start to twitch when I can't focus. But mostly stress.
Sometimes stress is one of them. They always said that strobe lights could do it, but that never really happened for me. It was kind of just whatever, nothing would really trigger it. If I was scared, sometimes it would trigger it, but nothing really triggered a seizure because I would be sleeping, so they really wouldn't know.
Nothing. Just they decide to come and go as they please.
I didn't have triggers, it just came.
Again, I look for that she isn't complaining about her sleep again, about maybe if she's been biting her gums, or if she's even just a little bit off maybe with how she feels. Just kind of look for those symptoms.
Exhaustion, and then occasionally if I see his eyes start to roll back in his head, then I start to know that's when it's happening. I mean, sometimes though, part of the absence seizures is the scary part is they're very, if you're not looking for it, you're gonna miss it. So 15 or 20 seconds will go by, if he's doing something else, I might be not even noticing it. So I had a little bit of struggling with a bit of mom guilt, especially when we were in the hospital and they would come in after an EEG and say, well, he had this seizure, and we didn't even see it. So his diagnosis was tough to see, but it was definitely eye-opening and making us aware of what was going on.
Triggers that you look for. We noticed that there would be a glossed over look, or a kind of a lost look, or a confused look, and in many cases stress played a big factor. At least in my sister's case and my mother's case, stress played a big role in that.
With him, he doesn't remember having the seizures. So I don't know if he is conscious of something changing when one came on or not. What we would notice after we'd seen several was that he'd become less and less responsive, he'd become distracted, he couldn't, lose track of what you were saying or doing. And then he'd kind of get tight and his whole body would kind of turn, and he wouldn't respond to what you were saying. and then we knew shortly after that he was going to have a convulsion. So that was kind of really the only things that I know ahead of time. I don't know if he noticed changes or not.
I take Keppra, 1,500 milligrams a day, and 25 milligrams of Topamax every day.
I usually just wear a CPAP to help with my sleep apnea, and I take a pill twice a day.
I still take them. I take medications, and then I had the surgeries to.
Right now I'm on one medication.
I tell my kids to quit screaming a lot. Tell them not to run through the house. Make sure I don't drive at night. Make sure I follow the directions of my doctor and stay close to home, so in case. So if I start feeling funky, I can get home quickly. I try to keep myself calm, not let things upset me. Kind of helps that the spot in my brain that has the problem is my emotions. So where a lot of people would get highly upset by something, I just don't care. You know, I just am like, whatever. So a lot of people get really irritated, and wouldn't be able to handle 12 children and 9 grandchildren. And at Christmas or Thanksgiving, to me, it's just like, okay. And it doesn't bother me.
Just medicine.
Medication.
Well, he has 2 different kind of medicines he takes. He takes right now what's called Keppra, and that's just a solution. And then he takes something called Depakote, and it's really it's a big pill, but he's 5, so we have to sprinkle it over. We call it his sprinkles on his applesauce. So he has those, and we've been kind of amping up his vitamin B6 and trying to prevent that. And some of the side effects with his medicine is mood swings, and so we've been working with him on that, and just really kind of being strict on bedtime. 7 o'clock is when we try to do it, so he's not so exhausted.
Myoclonic seizures, my face starts numbing and tingling, and then I usually get a stomach ache, and then feel pretty nauseous, and then as my face starts feeling like it's burning, and then suddenly my neck starts tensing up and then starts jerking, and usually followed by following flashing lights.
I was told during those monitoring times that my finger will tap 3 times before my seizures, and I get dizzy and my eyes would get all blurry.
I would have to say lightheadedness, and a feeling like I'm tired, I just want to go to sleep.
Mine are the headache. I'll have a headache right here on the top of my head. And then I will start having eye twitches, which just drives you absolutely batty. My hand, I don't know why, but it's always this hand. It's always my left hand. But my hand will twitch. My fingers will twitch. I'll be sitting there and I can just watch my thumb going like this. I'll start to feel funky, like I'm going to pass out almost. And that's how I describe it. I get, I can't talk, and then I just don't remember anything after that.
I stay.
No, but the only thing that could lead to a seizure would me feeling tired and my hands and my legs going numb.
My eyes. My eyes really start to, without control, they go like this. And I can't focus my eyes. I can't move them back to the center of my head. So, lately I've been in class and, I've been trying to focus on my board and I find myself, going like this. And I'm like, oh, no. Or, I really do have a lot of jerks. Just random jerks. My fingers twitch a lot. My toes twitch a lot. So then I know. I'm just but I don't really... Or I can smell weird smells.
It's hard to explain If the closest I can get, I would say, is like a tingling feeling in my spine.
Grand mal seizures, the convulsions last 2 minutes, unresponsiveness is 15, and then complete unawareness is 20 minutes. And then absence seizures are about 2 minutes, and then myoclonic seizures are just a couple seconds to about 2 minutes.
About 5 minutes.
In the beginning, they were about 20-25 minutes, I think was my longest one. And then my arm, when it was just my arm, it would probably last like 30 seconds. And like, once I started taking my medicine, it was about a minute at the most.
Like 7 minutes?
Usually no more than a couple minutes. I guess my longest one would have been my first one that I was hospitalized for about 4 days for, but it was still only short-lived. So I would say the longest one was a half hour maybe.
They usually only last up to a minute.
They can last from 15 seconds to 30 seconds.
I want to say probably about around 45 minutes.
One of them did last over 5 minutes, so I was in the hospital for that. The other ones have been just average, about like 2 minutes tops. My absence seizures only last about like a few seconds.
Usually 20-30 minutes.
Anywhere between 10 and 20 seconds.
They're usually a couple minutes.
I take chlorazepam if I have a grand mal seizure that lasts more than 2 minutes. That has to be administered by somebody else because I'm unresponsive. And then I just go to the ER for those, and they treat me there. The other ones, I just usually just continue on with my day and act like it didn't happen.
I usually just sit on my couch and just relax as much as I can, just so I don't trigger another one possibly.
I had a shot, but I never had to use it. But when I would have them, my parents would just talk to me and I had to wait it out.
So as long as I'm laying down, staying calm, I just kind of let it pass on its own until I feel like I can move again and safely move.
I get injections in my neck. It's steroid injections, and it calms my nerves.
My dad rushed me to the hospital several times.
My mom and dad have a pen that they, like a needle that they can give me to stop my seizures.
Medication. Yeah.
I had medicine for it.
Topamax comes with like tingling in the fingers and the face. Comes with a lot of like random pain and tremors in the hands.
Not any official ones, but I have been feeling like tired and groggy after I get home. Like as soon as I get home, I fall asleep like that.
I don't know if it's sided, like I've been on it so long, but I know I was really tired. The first couple of medicines, I don't remember which one, but one of them I was angry all the time. I'd fight with my sibling, I'd fight with my mom, like I was just angry and depressed. I feel okay now, but like at the beginning I was just angry and depressed, which I'm sure could have been a side effect from a lot of things.
I get tired very easily. I just want to sit down and I could doze off in a minute.
Stomach issues doesn't help with the headaches, and a lot of the medicines they give you for headaches then counteract the other medicines, so you can't really take those. NSAIDs will react with this, so you can't take that, which leaves you kind of stuck with, what do? You take Tylenol, or you go lay down for a little bit until you start feeling a little bit better.
I've gone through a lot of medications because like we couldn't find the right one for a long time. They'd either always like make me tired or like moody.
Yes. Headaches, tired all the time. it's just, I get very forgetful. Like, I literally could be in the middle of a sentence and be like, wait, what? Like, I just did that a second ago. I had no idea what I was talking about. But, yeah, I'm tired all the time. Like, and with mine, I get an increased appetite. Like, I'm hungry all the time, and I don't like that. With Topamax, I was very not hungry, and now I'm, like, really hungry. But I'm always tired, and I don't want to do anything.
They didn't really work because they gave me ADHD, so.
Blurred vision, which increases a lot if you go outside. I don't know why the sun affects that, but it does. That's the worst of it, the blurred vision, and sometimes I got headaches and stuff from it too.
So I have a neurologist appointment every single month, and I take 90 pills of Keppra per month and 60 tablets of Topamax per month. The Keppra and one appointment per month is already over $900 without insurance. So I don't know about the Topamax, but that's already $900 for my brain to not be having seizures. The one medication costs $15,000 per month. I don't know the cost of the other, and I have about an appointment every 3 months. I did have a hospital stay though, and I have another coming up, and those are super expensive because of all the equipment used and the fact that you're there so long. So it's a lot. I don't know exactly, but it's a lot.
We'll say $60 to $75 a month probably is all, is it?
I go to a doctor's appointment once a year now. It's in December, because that's when I had my last surgery. I'm not sure about that, and I'm not sure about the medications, but I know I go to once a year doctor's appointments.
Without insurance, I really don't know what it is without insurance. I would really be scared, because I know what the hospital stay was with insurance, and it wasn't cheap, and I was only in 1 day.
Oh, I have no idea. I wouldn't be able to if I didn't have insurance.
Oh boy. I couldn't even tell you. I know my medication. I get like 3 bottles at a time, and it's well over $1,000 without insurance. Well over $1,000, and then doctor's visits because the EEGs cost a lot amongst themselves, and it's just the amount of, I could say with doctor's visits and medication, you probably put in a $3,000 plus without insurance, and it's just why.
I would go, I want to say every 2 months to my doctor. I don't really know how much my medication was because I stopped taking it, so.
Without insurance, it's a lot. I know the Vimpat for sure is $1,600 a month without insurance. The Tegretol and Keppra is a little cheaper, but if I had to pay for myself, doctor visits and medications, all that, I'd probably be spending $4,000 a month.
Gosh, without insurance. Well, our 3-day hospital stay at Akron Children's was $17,000, and that was without insurance. We hit our deductible like the second week of February, so that was kind of nice for the rest of the year. But I would say the cost of medicine, I mean, he takes 6 tablets a day, and I believe that medicine is for a 90-day supply is $100. But with insurance, certainly that brings down the cost. But doctor's visits are, especially when you go to specialists in neurology, are a lot more expensive than just a normal checkup at the doctor's office. What price, I'm not sure, but you know, I think our hospital stay out of pocket, we ended up paying about $800. So.
I would just say clear the area, let the professionals do their job, and everything will be all right.
Put me on my side, and just as long as you keep talking to me, like, I can stay there. You have to just keep talking to me.
According to my neurologist, is to ensure that I minimize injury to myself. There's no way to stop it. It's got to run its course. They don't recommend that you stick anything in my mouth to keep me from biting my tongue. Just make sure I don't knock something over onto myself or possibly injure someone else, because you basically just all your muscles are firing all at the same time.
Just, I would say, just don't like yell when or be crazy when I'm close to me, when you're close to me.
There's really nothing you can do, because I just, like, stand there and freeze. Like, I'm not, like, on the floor or anything, so.
Probably take me to the hospital, because my neurologist would like to monitor what's happening when I'm while it's going on.
People should be calm. If you see someone having a seizure, be calm, because if you freak out, like, people can act, like, I know sometimes I can actually still hear what people are talking about when I'm seizing, so stay calm, because if not, you'll probably freak the person out even more. So my best advice is to stay by their side, make sure they're on their side, because you don't want them to, like, choke on their own spit or anything. So make sure they're on their side, and don't restrict them in any way. Don't, like, hold them down or try to put your fingers near their mouths. But I say just, like, kind of, like, talk them through it. Kind of just be like, you got that, you're okay, I'm here. Like, make sure they're reassured, so that when they do wake up, they're gonna be really confused. But if you don't know the person and you don't know they have epilepsy, I suggest calling 911, because just as a precaution. But if you do know that this person has a history of it, I say only call 911 if it's very serious or over 5 minutes.
Leave me alone.
I think I'm pretty much in control of my body for the most part. Like, there's not really anything that they could do to help me.
Just be there. I would say don't act like it makes me, like, a crazy phenomenon or anything like that. There are tons of people in the world who are suffering from seizures every single day, and just because I'm one of those people doesn't make it any different. And yeah, I mean, like, grand mal seizures are kind of a big deal. They are dangerous and scary, but to freak out isn't going to help me through it anymore. So I would say just be there to comfort me through it, knowing that my friends will be there for me no matter what goes on with my brain is really comforting, and knowing that they'll accept me no matter what my brain does. That's really all I can ask for.
Well, really just explain to me what happened, and I'll be like, okay, it's fine, thank you for telling me, and all that.
I usually get, not embarrassed, but, like, upset. Like, I just get upset that it happened a lot, so just kind of tell me, like, it's okay, like, you're alright. Like, just kind of keep encouraging me and stuff.
Let me know what happened, because I would probably, if it's based upon what's happened in the past, I will not remember or even know that I had a seizure unless I injure myself.
I have a really good support system with my kids and my husband, and he grew up with a sister that has seizures, and she has the bad ones, so he knew getting into this that there was a possibility. He just managed to luck out and make it all these years without seeing one until a couple weeks ago. And the absence ones, he just walks on and waits for me to come back around. The kids are just, they just kind of, like I said, sit there and say, okay, we'll give her a minute, and then they start telling me whatever else it was they wanted to tell me. I think the only time I've ever scared them was a couple weeks ago, because none of them had seen anything like that. None of them had seen me hit the ground, you know, or come running because they heard this huge thump and figured out Mom's laying on the floor. The dog was a little concerned. She was on my chest trying to lick my face to make me come around. You know, I've got one yelling, Mom, are you okay? And I can't speak. And my husband's going, go away for a minute. You know, and the dog's trying to lick me awake. And I'm just going, everybody move. You know, the floor just hit me in the face and I hurt. So, for the most part, they all do pretty good with it.
Just be gentle, be quiet.
There's really nothing to do. I will be like confused no matter what, but I'll like eventually get back to it.
I would say try to stay calm and relaxed and be there for me, but don't get too overwhelmed. And
yeah, like just be calm and like don't like I don't know, that's hard.
They shouldn't be so quick to think that it's like seizures are everybody's like shaking. There's so many different types of seizures and so many like it's not just shaking and like not just like freaking like your body shaking and your people should know like there's more types of seizures out there.
Just leave me be. I don't know, I felt it more comforting just to forget about it and just continue on.
Like they were not really much. They scared me when I was little, but like the ones I've had since I've been like older haven't been as scary, and I'm just kind of used to them happening.
Well, before I knew anything about seizures, my instinct when she had that seizure in the car was to be there with her when she was having the seizure and just keep my eye on her and my arms around her to make sure everything that was happening and just make sure she was being taken care of. And after the seizure, make sure that she was just as comfortable as possible as far as being in the hospital, things like that. In terms of before seizures, maybe just in everyday life, just making sure as much as I can that she's not doing too much in terms of something that would cause a seizure, like staying up too late or having too much screen time or just pushing herself too hard in ways like that.
So the biggest thing before a seizure, like I said, we still don't know exactly what causes her epilepsy, and her triggers can vary. But the biggest thing is just reminding her to stay calm and not to get anxious, because hyperventilation, exhaustion, and anxiety can all be contributors. So just reminding her to stay calm when she gets stressed out or to get rest. I haven't really seen the immediately before a seizure, like, because we're still figuring it out. So in that sense, just if she's feeling funny, reminding her to drink water, to sit down if she needs to come home early from places if she needs to. During a seizure, we need to put her on her side so she can breathe easily. You don't have to worry about her swallowing her tongue. That doesn't happen, but to make sure there's nothing in her mouth. If she's having a grand mal seizure, if she has a seizure that lasts more than 2 minutes, then we give her a rescue medication, and we also call 911. Another thing that's really important during a seizure is to keep talking to the person. First of all, if they're unconscious, they may still be able to hear you, and it's really comforting to wake up to a familiar voice. Also, my sister has seizures where she is fully conscious, but she can't talk back to you, and she can still hear you. And so for her, like, talking to her throughout it just is an assuring thing that lets her know that everything's okay and that you're with her, and just keeps the brain engaged and has something to come back to. After a seizure, make sure they're comfortable, that they're getting rest, make sure that, like, they're not doing anything crazy right afterwards, and encourage them to call their doctor, because some people don't like to do that.
Before, I didn't know the signs, so I mean, we were literally talking in the middle of a conversation, and then she had a seizure. During, I made sure we were playing music on her phone, you know, rehearsing for an upcoming event, and I just made sure that the phone with the aux cord wasn't wrapped around her, strangling or doing any harm to her. And then after, I just made sure she was breathing and that she was sitting up and that she was getting the proper care from everyone.
Well, there was no indication before. During, it's been identified that his tonic-clonic seizures, basically you can't do anything for them. You just got to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. And so as a result, making sure he's in a position that he can't hurt himself while in the middle of a seizure.
I don't really know that they're coming. There's no trigger. We don't, during, we just have to, like the one they had at home, we just moved him to the floor so that he didn't fall. Luckily, he was sitting down at the time, so we just made him comfortable on the floor, and there's really nothing you can do. You just have to wait till it's over and keep trying to bring him back to awareness. So, yeah.
With my mom, it's mostly she can handle it on her own. If she has a seizure, she doesn't really get hurt, like physically around her. So she just goes on with her day, but with my sister, I've never been there with her.
You have to be very calm, and we'll make sure she doesn't hurt, their tongue doesn't, roll back, so make sure that happens, and make sure that she's on her side, so.
I monitor that she always has her pills, because she has to take them, I think, twice a day. And so I'm like, okay, did you take it? And she's like, no. And I'm like, go take it. So I always am on her with that. And during, I just made sure that I was doing the best I could just to keep her from not choking or to keep her safe from hitting her head. And after, just to make sure that she was safe and she was in good hands.
Well, before it's hard to even judge it because in our case they were nocturnal, so they usually happen at night. So there wasn't really much we could do in advance. During, we would just make sure that we knew they weren't in a position to hurt themselves. They weren't, if they were on the floor, we'd make sure they didn't hit their head. If they were walking, we'd make sure they didn't run into doors. And after, we would just make sure they were comfortable in bed, and they would just come back to sleep.
Well, obviously, once we found out that's what he was on medication, and we made sure that he took that on a regular basis. There really isn't too much you can do beforehand until he would actually have one. And at that point, you just make sure that he was in a safe position where he wasn't going to injure himself while he was thrashing. And then we'd have to call the ambulance and they'd have to take him to the hospital.
I suffer from new daily persistent headaches, and I have chronic migraines, which are related to epilepsy. Well, I have had silent seizures recently, but some of them lead to me waking up with a blister in my mouth because I bit my cheek, or the seizures, as I said earlier, they lead to memory loss. And for me, I have trouble with words and wording things and remembering words and speaking, and I have severe hand tremors that go on all the time. So if I'm playing my flute at a concert, it's hard to keep my flute up, or if I'm speaking in front of the class, I shake before I even start just because my hands are tremoring so much and I can't read my note card. And I also have muscle jerks that happen during the day, so I'll be writing something, and I love to write calligraphy and things like that, and my hand will jerk, and it'll write something on the page that I didn't intend to write. So those are a ton of the things that I deal with, along with head pain and nausea and things like that.
Not that I know of.
Since it was my brain right here and they took such a big portion out, I have cognitive issues all throughout the side. So if I go like this side's I can't feel it as much. When I run, my leg just can't keep up with my other leg, so I'll trip sometimes. I have short-term memory loss, but I mean, it's just, you know, I had no hair, so I had no friends. We had moved because my mom couldn't afford a house anymore. So I like got depressed. I know like no one, I didn't have any friends. So I mean, I've come a long way, but there was a lot of bumps.
No.
All of my health conditions are related to the car accident I had when I was 16. Everything, I have multiple issues, but all of them go back to the car accident I had when I was 16. Any leg problems, arthritis problems, the head injury, back injuries, the things that have come about all stem from the car accident.
No.
No. I believe no.
I don't.
No, not really.
No.
I have hearing loss. They think that's because of my epilepsy.
Warnings would be great. Like, I went to a hot air balloon show and they had lighting balloons that they lit up, and they didn't say that it would be like strobing at any point, but it did, and it really like hurt my head a lot. And when people have 4th of July parties, they might not tell people that there will be fireworks, or movies never tell you that there will be flashing at any point. Theaters even don't really say that there are flashing. Thankfully, because of me, my school has started to say, like, before a play or a musical that there will be flashing in a certain scene. But other than that, like, most places don't say things like that, so you never really get a warning.
I would just like to see, like in health classes, they teach you about how to handle somebody that has fallen down, like suffered from cardiac arrest. And I would like to see just like a little bit of that in our health classes, like in our high school careers, just so that they get the basis of what's going on and how to react. Because when people don't know, they tend to panic.
Probably, like you said, the flashing lights. Cause like, have you seen the new Incredibles 2 movie? That one, or haunted houses. Just like the strobe lights, like that's not my trigger, but like I know it's a trigger, so I get scared that it's gonna like something will happen. So it's, yeah.
I know that it's a very serious issue. It's life altering. I've been banned from driving. I have to stay seizure free for 6 months before I can even drive. Now, for somebody that younger that's never driven, it won't impact them as much as somebody who has driven their entire life. And now they're told they cannot drive. Big adjustment there.
My biggest pet peeve would probably be the whole driving issue. I get it. I understand that it's dangerous. But I do understand also that there are people like me that know what's happening before it happens and have time to get off the road or pull in somewhere, or that it's not all just flat out you're unable to do anything.
Strobe lights, warnings for strobe lights would be nice.
Yeah, I wish that like there would be some like warnings. Like sometimes when I go to the movies to watch a movie, like they don't like warn you about the epilepsy, like the new Despicable movie. Yeah, that was a rough one.
I think that my biggest pet peeve is they don't teach it in schools, like CPR, or they don't teach what it is. They just kind of assume people know. My thing is, I think you're taught CPR in health classes. I really think you should be taught seizure first aid. I also really think that teachers should be licensed in seizure first aid as well, because if you have one in a class, they may know what you're having, but they might not know how to treat it. They might not know to get surroundings away. I just think that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is it's not enforced to learn when you're in a school or a public setting.
I feel like when people make fun of them, or like for me, I was always thinking about like the kids that have seizures during the day. I couldn't even imagine what that felt like, because I was having them at night. So I feel like there should be more accommodations for people at school with like Mary. Yeah. Like there should be something like that where if you are having a seizure, they'll know, or like the teacher should have like a class that they should go to.
I'm not much of a struggler, so nothing really.
Mine weren't very serious, so like there's not really an accommodation for it.
I am not allowed to drive.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I've been seizure free for almost 3 years now, so yeah, I can drive.
No.
Yes, I am allowed to drive.
Yes.
Yes.
I am allowed to drive.
I am allowed to drive.
Yes.
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 I can be employed. There are some jobs that I could not do, but the job that I hope to do, I am able to do.
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Yeah, I probably could.
No, I cannot be employed.
Yes.
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 I
Yes.
should be able to, but I have had employers tell me no.
Yes.
I'm not able to drive, which is really frustrating because a lot of my friends obviously are able to drive and are super excited, like getting their licenses, getting their temps, and like knowing I'm going off to college and like not being able to drive is like just really frustrating there. Another frustrating limitation is like not being able to watch some movies, like Incredibles 2. I was super excited about because the first Incredibles movie came out when I was a kid, and so I was really looking forward to the second one like my whole life. So that's a restriction that really bugs me because I want to see that movie really bad.
The hardest restriction I have was not being able to join the military. My plan B, if I didn't go to college, was to join the National Guard, but I would have to be off my medication for 2 years and not have to suffer from a seizure after 2 years. So that's one of my biggest restrictions.
I don't have any now, other than like trampolines and bumping my head. I can't get concussions, but when everything was happening and they thought it was my heart, I wasn't allowed to play sports or do gym class, and so I was always I played every sport you can think of, and I had, gym class, so I'd have to go to the office every day during gym class and sit with Miss Conti and just like file papers or something. So probably not being able to play sports.
I would say it's I've limited my doctor limited me on some of the activities that I used to do and just took for granted. Obviously, no driving. The big thing is that he doesn't want me to be put in a situation where I could injure myself. So he doesn't even want me to run the snowblower or the lawnmower, which I have a riding tractor. He doesn't want that until I go 6 months without a seizure.
No driving at night. Not being able to take my kids to youth group. Not being able to take my kids to, every concert under the sun that the school plans at 7 p.m. In the wintertime. Not being able to attend those plays and things like that. Because I just can't get myself there and get home safely at night with headlights and flashing at me.
Anytime I go a lot of places, the lights will bother me, and it makes me feel like I'm not with it when certain lights affect me.
For a while I wasn't allowed to like go to concerts or anything because of strobe lights, and every time like before I compete for a cheer competition they'd like have to turn off the strobe lights, so I didn't have one.
The period of time when I could not drive.
Definitely, I don't like taking medicine all the time. I'm very forgetful. So then, like, if I'm at a friend's house and I want to stay the night, I can't because I don't have my medicine, so I have to go home. Another thing is definitely the, like, haunted houses. Like, I really wish I could experience that, but strobe lights are a really big trigger for me as well. So, and I don't know a haunted house that doesn't have strobe lights. Some concerts, some things it's just, like, you just feel like you can't, but you want to, and you're just like, oh. But yeah.
I would say driving due to safety. other than that, or being in high places, climbing up ladders and stuff, I would be afraid of having a seizure and falling, but so far so good.
Not usually. There have been some people that say that I would be embarrassed if I had a seizure. There have been people who say, like, that I shouldn't be able to go on certain, like, things because of my condition, just because of responsibility, because they don't want to take responsibility if something happens, which is understandable. But I wouldn't say I've necessarily been discriminated against intentionally. I think the people had good intentions in mind.
I wouldn't say poorly. I mean, I get joked a lot by my friends, but that's just our friend group, you know. Just, we joke around with stuff. We know we're not serious, but we just joke around, that's all.
It's not that they say that they can't, it's just like they try to like shield me from things, I guess. So that's kind of like annoying. Or like I'll be with like a group of people and someone will say something about like epilepsy and like then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, I mean, why would you say something like that in the first place? So like that kind of annoys me, but that's not really discrimination, but yeah.
Nope, because I don't tell people. I probably, if people knew, but I just don't. I don't see it. I just refuse to admit that I have any disabilities. Unless it's like, you know, my parking spot, because, you know, I kind of enjoy that with my arthritis.
Well, it's usually my friends. I'll make jokes, but they're not serious, so I'd say I've been treated okay.
I haven't, and I'm very grateful for that. Most people that I've encountered have been very understanding, or try to understand. They sometimes don't have a clue what it is, but they're willing to learn, and I've been very grateful for the friends that I've been blessed with that.
I would say so when the school sent me home to be homeschooled.
Not because of my epilepsy, but because of hearing loss I have.
Yeah, I don't want to get too emotional, but he is just, we've been so blessed with God being able to bring us through this whole process, and I can't speak enough about that, just being able to walk through this arm in arm with God and realizing that he's carrying us too. Knowing that we're hopeful that he'll eventually outgrow this, and he's still our little Jonathan, but he likes to tell me that his name is actually John now because that's what his friends call him. So, but he is a trooper through this whole thing, and we love him through and through for that. So,
just understand the condition, as much education as the family can get, because there's varying degrees of epilepsy. There's varying degrees of intensity. I would say learn what your loved one has, learn what to expect, and don't panic. It's not the end of the world. Stay calm, that's a big part of it, and be understanding.
I mean, just keep pushing, like, I'm not gonna lie, there's nothing easy about it, and like, you're always scared it's gonna happen again, and you're gonna have another seizure. You just gotta keep, like, pushing through it, like, be strong, and it gets better, I promise.